So, Samira, you are from England. So, would you like to share with us, right, the religions in England?
Yes. Well, in England, traditionally the religion is Christianity. So most people are Anglican, or it's a kind of Protestant Christians. So people of my parents' generation, for example, generally believe, they're generally Christians. They quite often go to church on Sunday morning. Sunday is the religious day. But people of my generation and younger, many English people, they don't really believe in God anymore. So often people are atheists.
So, I think it's also a common situation worldwide. So, I do have some really pious or faithful Christian friend. So, they would like to pray before each meal. So, if they want to do that, I will just follow their practice and join them praying before each meal.
Yeah, it's a good idea to respect other people's religions, respect their belief and their faith.
Yes. And also, maybe lots of people in Taiwan or maybe people in China, they don't believe in God anymore. Or perhaps most people in Taiwan, they don't believe in one single God. They probably think, okay, there are multiple gods, particularly in Taoism. So maybe in Taoism they will say, okay, the three pure ones. So from the beginning they get really not only one God but three of them all together there.
So in Taiwan, young people like our students, would they go to the temple regularly?
Again, I think it's a mixed situation. So people may believe in this particular God and follow the activities or festivals related with that particular temple then.
Okay,
So
the fun stuff.
not really fun stuff, like still, right, they probably get the parade, so they will follow, right, the God's sculpture, so they may take the God's sculpture around Taiwan, and sometimes they even bring the sculpture back to China or to other origins of the sculpture, and coming to there and coming back then.
Okay, so following the tradition.
Yes.
Well, in England, even young atheists who don't believe in God, they would still go to church for certain traditional things. So, for example, maybe to get married, or maybe for a friend's wedding, they would still go to church, and maybe to baptize or christen their baby as well. And for funerals as well, they often take place in churches. So the church still has a very important role to play in society, everywhere in the West really, for these traditional activities that will still happen in the church. Now, my other part of my background, my father is Palestinian, and many Arabs are Muslims. We were talking about Islam earlier.
In our dialogue then.
Yes. And the one thing that you'll probably notice if you go to a Muslim country is that people are covered. They cover their bodies quite a lot. They don't show much skin. And this is the case for men and women, right? So often men will also cover their heads to protect themselves from the sun. But women sometimes in countries, they have to cover their hair and cover their arms, make sure they're not wearing anything too low cut, no shoulders showing, no knees showing. So that's the main thing if they go, if any of our students go to a Muslim country, that's the main thing they'll have to respect.
I think most Taiwanese are now exposed to the Muslim culture a little bit more nowadays because we got immigrant workers from Southeast Asian countries. So lots of them are Muslims.
Right,
And
Malaysia, Indonesia.
Yeah, and sometimes we will read reports on these Muslim workers. They gather together to observe their religious holidays, and they probably need to use some public space. For example, the Taipei main train station. And some people feel, okay, they are not sure about, right, people using this public space. And they
Well, it's true
sometimes
that, yes,
feel-
in Muslim countries, if the mosque is full, then people will be praying outside in the street. They're quite happy to pray anywhere in a park or in the street as well. It's not a problem for them, yes.
So yeah, based on these reports, of course, most Taiwanese just see these, right, workers, but we do not have, right, much knowledge on the background or which holiday they are celebrating or they are observing. So that's probably what we should know a little bit
Well,
more about.
Islam is a very peaceful religion. I know there's a lot of problems now with terrorism and the terrorists who are claiming to be Islamic and Muslim, but none of that is true because Islam is a very peaceful religion. So I think that's what's causing a lot of tension now too.
So in fact, I think in each country, right, there are always various kinds of religions and people coexist. So we should respect others and the religion they decide to follow.
Yeah, for example, if you go to America on holiday, then you might find that lots of Americans are actually of Jewish faith. And the Jews also have specific traditions. Their temple is called a synagogue, and their day off is Saturday. So for strict Jews, they do not work on Saturday. And the other thing about the Jewish faith is that people will not eat pork or shellfish. So, and they also have a certain specific ways of killing animals that they're going to eat. So they like products to be kosher, which means that it's followed the Jewish faith for the special sacrifice for preparing the meat.
According to what you say, it just reminds me that I believe on certain days they cannot eat heated food for Jewish people.
That's on Saturday, the Sabbath, yes.
Yeah, they cannot just use the stove to warm their food. They need to eat cold ones.
That's right. They're not allowed to do any work, and the strict believers take that very follow it to the letter. So they're not allowed to turn the light on, for example. They can only use candles for light, things like that. Yes. How about countries like India, for example? What's the main religion in India?
So I think in our reading we do say that the most important religion in India is Hinduism, but also we should not forget that the Buddhism actually comes from, right, India first. And also we can see some people who dress differently. They are the Sikh, right?
So the Sikhs with the turban.
Yes. So even in India, right, we can see these different kinds of religions, and they are the major ones. And talking about Buddhism, right, we know that in lots of Asian countries, like in China, in Taiwan, lots of people claim themselves are Buddhist, right? But in fact, right, even they are Buddhists, right, there are different branches.
Right.
So we
Different beliefs.
see lamas, right, everywhere, and they kind of belong to the other branch, right?
Well, I've always been led to believe that Buddhism isn't really a religion as such, because there's no God as such. It's more a way of life, more a philosophy of life, a way of leading a good life and helping others and improving yourself. And that's what I find so interesting about Buddhism.
Yeah, I think that's true, right?
Yeah.
So I think most of the religions want to instruct people to follow certain kinds of rules and maybe to lead people to have a more regulated life from my point of view. So whether like in Bible, right, they tell people what we should do, what we should not do, or as you just mentioned, like in Buddhism, right, people would believe it as a kind of philosophy and thinking, okay, what they do in this life may impact what is going to happen in their next life. They have no idea then.
Right,
So,
this concept of karma.
yes.
Right. And also reincarnation.
Yes.
That's a Hindu concept as well, the idea of reincarnation, which I think is very interesting because it can help people who perhaps have a very difficult life, who are really struggling, don't have enough money to feed their children and so on. But it gives them that hope that in their next life things will be better.
Yes.
And so it's an interesting philosophy, again, way of thinking of life.
And it's also encouraging, right? Thinking what you are doing this life, right, will be really helpful for next life. I think that's it. So
that's one of the reasons why Hindus don't eat meat.
Yes.
So most Hindus in India, if you go to India, famous Indian cuisine is always vegetarian, so there's no meat, or even vegan. So vegan means no animal products at all. So no milk, no cheese, no eggs, nothing at all. And they have come up with some amazing recipes of food, very, very good way of cooking different vegetables and legumes and pulses and so on. And that has also helped the entire country because it's not a rich country. And so most people couldn't afford to buy meat anyway. And the fact that most of the people are vegetarian, that they don't need to buy expensive meat products, that's how they manage to feed themselves and get enough nutrition for not so much money.
So if you have these kind of special rules you need to follow on your food and drink, remember to remind the waiter when you order something at a restaurant. I guess most of the restaurants in Taiwan or in other countries can prepare the food with your special request.
Yes,
so if you don't want to follow these regulations, remind them first.
Yeah.
I think it's really good thing.
Yeah.
They can serve different kinds of food.
Good point.
So
okay, let's think of some questions now.
Okay.
Ask our students some questions. How many different religions do you think there are in the world? See if you can look on the internet and see exactly what number of religions there are around the world.
And also think about the regulations on food and drink. If you are a Buddhist, what are the regulations on food and drink for a religious Buddhist?
Okay.
Okay, that's our questions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See you next time.